Agenda 21, 2030, depopulation plans of P2 Masonry and the Club of Rome. The agenda is the inventorying and control plan of all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all constructions, all means of production, all food, all energy, all intellectual property, and all human beings on the planet. This plan was agreed to by 179 nations back in 1992. It was called the Agenda for the 21st Century, shortened to Agenda 21. This agenda is not about, quote, recycling, sustainable reuse, or creating clean energy to stop global warming. Agenda 21, 2030 is about moving human populations into what are known as neo-concentration camps, or city centralizations, i.e. clearing the human populations out of all the rural areas in the country and around the world. I'm going to tell you a little bit of the history behind this whole eugenics thing and all this global warming crap, and where it is that the people who are now, who have now instituted something that you're going to see how it led to this particular point. Now, the British Eugenics Society was never disbanded. It's still in effect today. And their revival was carried out under a new banner, ecology and conservation. Let me say that again. Eugenics Society, which is about cropping the population of people of color on this planet, they took a whole new banner, a whole new flag to fly, ecology and conservation. Just as the Nazi Party had roots in their radical environmentalists, what they call Jugendkultur, which is actually counterculture movement of 1920s Germany, British Crown agents of the immediate post-war years, that's World War II and World War I, created a series of environmentalist organizations which would form the basis of the new eugenics movement. To this day, those same organizations are the leading promoters worldwide of mass genocide in the name of preserving nature. Both Hitler's race and population genocide program and the promotion of preservation of nature over the advancement of mankind were ideas that were spawned from London in the second half of the 19th century through the work of people like Charles Darwin, Sir Thomas Huxley, Sir Francis Galton, Sir Herbert Spencer, and Sir Arthur Tansley, who all led a revival of an extreme form of Malthusian population genocide. Those are the men that you're looking at right now, whose plans and whose philosophies that the deep state are actually now implementing and carrying out. This guy, Julian Huxley, the grandson of Thomas Huxley, created and headed a UN agency called United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or what you may know called UNESCO, and worked, quote, to make the unthinkable thinkable again, i.e. genocide. Now, this man called Lord Bertrand Russell, in his book Prospects of Industrial Civilization, wrote, "The white population of the world will soon cease to increase. The Asiatic races will be longer and the Negroes still longer before their birth rate falls sufficiently to make their numbers stable without help of war and pestilence. Until that happens, the benefits aimed at by socialism can only be partially realized, and the less prolific races will have to defend themselves against the more prolific by methods which are disgusting, even if they are necessary." Now, I want you to understand that this was actually a protocol. This is why you see what's happening in Europe. And everywhere you go, all you see is white folks that's battling over something. They're battling over you. Now, in his 1951 work, The Impact of Science on Society, it was a discussion of the uses of mass psychology to keep the majority of human beings hopelessly backward and compliant. In it, he advocated the kind of mass genocide that became the hallmark of the British royal Prince Philip who adopted his philosophy as part of his own promotion of environmentalism. Of this, Lord Bertrand Russell wrote, at present, the population of the world is increasing at about 58,000 per diem. War, so far, has had no great effect on this increase. War has hitherto been disappointing in this respect, but perhaps bacteriological war may prove more effective. Look at when this was written. If a Black Death could spread throughout the world once in every generation, survivors would procreate freely without making the world too full. The state of affairs might be somewhat unpleasant, but what of it? Really high-minded people are indifferent to happiness, especially other people's. End quote. The UN Charter for Nature was passed by the UN General Assembly. The report, known as the Brundtland Report, after its chairman, Groot Harlem Brundtland, made popular the radical environmentalist catch-all phrase, sustainable development. Now you know where that came from. And when you listen to these jackasses keep talking about sustainable development, they're actually talking about killing off 2/3 of the planet's population. Now, this is very important. Listen carefully. In 1970, Prince Bernhard and his close friend Anton Rupert, South African tobacco magnate, launched the 1001 Nature Trust. The purpose of the trust was to generate a guaranteed financial base for the World Wildlife Fund. The WWF, not the World Wrestling Federation, was started by Prince Philip and Prince Bernhard, the latter a former member of Hitler's Nazi Party. The Club of Rome's 1991 document, The First Global Revolution, stated, listen carefully, quote, in searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. But in designating them as the enemy, we fall into the trap of mistaking symptoms for causes. All these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy, then, is humanity itself. End quote. Now you see who it is that's orchestrating this culling and cropping process. Which brings us to what was then called the Anglo-Saxon Initiative. Let me explain this.